Man, I'm just going to go out there and put on a show on Saturday. So I just want to entertain the fans with everything I've been working on, preparing for the fight mentally, physically, emotionally. And I just want to get some fan engagement. It's been a great energy, great atmosphere here in LA. So I just wanted to ask him some questions and give him some No Love merchandise.
Well, people are going to wonder, like maybe was he trying to hide something, whether it be an injury, whether it be a tactic, whether it be something?
Look, man, I'm the most physically fit I've ever been, most mentally stable, emotionally. I'm ready to go out there and recapture this gold, put TJ away, and that's it. And there's no hiding anything. You know what I mean? I'm very blunt with everything I do in my life. I'm very raw and real. I'm excited to go out there and get this title back.
I enjoy working out. Might as well get a little sweat in. I feel great. The weight cut's been easy, so why not give the fans a little show, I don't look into what he's got going on. I don't look into how his camp's going or what he's got to say. You can only worry about what you can control, and that's myself.
He does say, listen, it's going to be a different guy this time around.
Of course he says that.
How much stock do you put in that? I mean, do you feel like you're preparing for the same guy? I mean, that was him at 100%, or do you feel like, hey, maybe he wasn't at his best?
Prepare for everyone to be a monster. Prepare for every situation. Same reason why I got hit in the first round, I was able to come back in the second, because you can't focus on that stuff. Can't overlook anybody. Got to expect him to be awesome, right? But it's excuses,
So here we see Cejudo. He's had 2 years to get some more fights under his belt. He's fought Joseph Benavidez, Sergio Pettis, and Wilson Hayes. So he looks better. He looks more patient, more calm about the way he goes about his fights. But the difference between me, Sergio, and Wilson Hayes are two different beasts. Sergio is a stand-up guy. Wilson Hayes is a grappler, to where I can mix both those things in very well.
I think a lot has changed, and it was just a timing thing from the technical to the tactical aspect of it, to the physical aspect, to the science aspect of it, and more importantly, man, I recognize that Demetrious Johnson is a real deal. I recognize it, and you guys have heard the countdown. I've never felt that a human being could do that to me, and man, reality check. But it taught me that, hey, man, you bleed, man. But it also taught me that, hey, he bleeds too. And I'm looking forward to this rematch tremendously because, man, this guy's probably going to go down as one of the best of all time. And statistically speaking, he is probably the greatest of all time. He's good in wrestling, jiu-jitsu, striking, all that. But I also embrace all that. I embrace it, I accept it, and I'm looking forward to that challenge. And I'm not going to shy away from it.
Here with Danny Castillo, a longtime training partner and one of the head coaches to Cody Garbrandt, who tries to reclaim his title against TJ Dillashaw. And quickly, before we get to this Saturday, UFC 217, a lot of build-up to that fight. What is the biggest takeaway for you from that first fight?
The biggest takeaway from that fight is the speed difference. Anyone who saw the fights, there's a huge discrepancy in terms of speed. And, with an aging Dillashaw, I doubt he's been able to put in the work to gain the speed that he lacks. But what I did gain from him is something I knew about TJ since the beginning, and he's tough and he's one of the best bantamweights in the world.
Why did Cody lose that fight when it really comes down to it?
Why he lost that fight? Well, it stems back from a year before. He had some back injuries. He wasn't able to train 100% for this fight. He was having difficulties staying in the stance, and I think TJ capitalized on him coming up out of his stance, and he got caught with a hook, and I think that was the reason why. From there, I've seen a different Cody Garbrandt that I've never seen before, motivated and eager to get in the gym and train, and that's something that I've seen a little bit of him, but not like now.
Here with Dwayne Ludwig, the head coach of TJ Dillashaw, who looks to defend his title this time against Cody Garbrandt, the one that he took from Garbrandt at UFC 217 in November. And I want to start there. It was an emotional fight, right? It was an emotional week. What do you remember about the build-up, the fight itself, and then getting the job done?
It's as emotional as you make it, right? So with that being said, there's a whole bunch of outside elements that can, inflict with you a little. So I make sure I focus on what I can control, and that's the same thing I ask my students to do as well. So what I remember is just focusing on the game plan and make sure that TJ should do what he needs to do, and we all need to do what we should do, right, and not focus on the outside elements. So just make sure that we're outside the power hook zone of Cody, and actually went inside of the hook zone and worked out.
Yeah, and you said focus on the game plan. In an immediate rematch with two guys who already are so familiar with one another, does the game plan change a whole lot, or does it fundamentally stay the same?
Well, we're always making adjustments and improvements, right? So that's there's just more layers to TJ, honestly. So and there's still two more areas to explore with him and to develop with him. So that's always my main thing, is to extract his potential, and he's starting to get into his athletic prime, right? So it's not necessarily to game plan against a specific opponent as much as it is to focus on TJ and pull out, extract his potential is always my main goal with him. So it doesn't matter who's across the cage, they're fighting the best TJ, and that's how again I choose to focus on the martial arts side of things.
Here with Matt Hume, the longtime head coach of flyweight champion Demetrious Johnson. And Matt, the record was broken, so what are you still doing here? I thought that was the end of the mission, right?
No, we still got fights to go. I mean, there's no end to the mission. He's a martial artist, and however many we rack up in a row, that's what the record's going to be.
Did it feel any different though, knowing that coming in, because for so long that was something that was a concrete goal that you had pinpointed? Did it feel any different not having that?
No. I mean, we prepare the same way, regardless of who we're fighting, whether there's a record on the line or not. There's always a record on the line, and at this point, every time he fights, there will be a record on the line unless he loses. But then he's broken other types of records as well. So, our goal is to be the best Demetrious Johnson that he can be when he steps in the cage.
And apparently to be entertaining as well, because you broke the record in a suplex armbar type move. How many more of those sequences do you have in up your back pocket?
Probably unlimited. We work on things in the gym, and he's the kind of guy that if he sees the opportunity, he'll do it in the cage. So that was something that just came from, he was asking me, he didn't like how the suplex felt, because when you throw the suplex, you lose control of the hips when you do it like a wrestler. So I showed him how to just drop the suplex and take the armbar when they came down. The next thing you know, he's doing it in the cage. So.
In this fight, obviously a familiar opponent in Henry Cejudo, 2.5 years since you beat him in the first round. What changes do you see in Henry's game, or what has he shown you in these last 3 fights that he's had?
Well, he's definitely improved his striking. His striking style is a little different. He's got kind of a little karate base to it now, he's definitely packed on a little bit more power to his punches, especially his right hand. And his ground game's improved. I know he's been down in Brazil training too, and so he's added different elements to his game, and he's shown improvement. I think he's definitely the top contender again, and he deserves this shot.
Here with Captain Eric Albarracin, part of Team Henry Cejudo, who of course takes on Demetrious Johnson, tries to snap that record of 12 consecutive title defenses for Demetrious Johnson, which everybody knows Johnson, everybody knows about the record. How do you go about breaking a record like that?
Well, this is a rematch, and the great aren't great because they're perfect emotionally, physically, and mentally. The great are great because they have perfect responses to losses and to fear and doubt. And we've already faced them. We know what we did well in that fight, and we know what we have to do to get better. And the biggest thing is that fight is behind us, and the fight we're going to have is ahead of us. And the Henry Cejudo from 2 years ago is not the Henry Cejudo from now. He's 10 times better, and he's evolved as a fighter. And what we have to do to beat somebody like Demetrious Johnson is go out there and impose our will. His coach is going to make adaptations in a fight. We're going to make adaptations in a fight, and it's going to be a 5-round war, of a game of war and chess.
Is defeating Demetrious Johnson the greatest challenge that anyone could ever face in the sport right now? Is he the guy, the toughest guy to beat in the sport?
I would say definitely, top 2. You got the other guys that are up in there like Daniel Cormier. In the weight class, obviously, is DJ, but in the in the MMA, there's greats. Daniel Cormier comes to mind right off the bat. Nobody's beaten Khabib Nurmagomedov. How do you get through that maze? So, yes, definitely he's one of them. And we're going to navigate that maze come Saturday, August 4th. We're going to get to the end. We're going to get our hands raised.
You said Henry's 10 times the fighter that he was the first time around 2.5 years ago. What is the single biggest change?
I would say the biggest change right now is he's got a chip on his shoulder. He's an Olympic champion. There's not a lot of Olympic champions that head into combat sports, or at least in the MMA, because you don't have a chip on your shoulder. You won the biggest thing you could ever win. Your whole life goal when you're a wrestler is to be an Olympic gold medalist. You don't have that chip. He came in because he wanted to, fight, but there was no chip. He could always go back to wrestling if he wanted, With this loss and the way he lost, Henry Cejudo has a chip on his shoulder. And an Olympic champion with a chip on his shoulder is rare. And that rare fighter is going to enter the octagon on August 4th. And you're going to see one of the greatest combat athletes in the world compete. And Henry Cejudo is going to get that hand raised.